Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's double header action. It's Thursday night, so of course there's a ton of NGS matches, and we have the Div C double header starting off with our first match tonight, ReGen Anomaly versus Team LuBu. Now, LuBu, you might remember from last week, we saw them lose 2-1 against Calculated Throw. Meanwhile, ReGen Anomaly also lost in week number 1 2-1 against Die for Vision. So both of these teams will be hungry to get their first win on the board this season. Now when we look to the maps, we see that Team ReGen did win the coin toss and decided to choose first pick. They ended up banning out Dragon Shower and Cursed Hollow. Meanwhile, Team LuBu banned out Towers of Doom and Volskaya Foundry. So we will be going to BOE for our first map today. Should be interesting as both these teams have yet to play on BOE so far this year. However, Team LuBu has played on BOE at least last season and of course before then. But we have the stats for last season. They played on it 5 times, 40% win rate, which was above their average win rate last season, up in Division B. So it should be interesting to see if they utilize some of the same strats as they did last year. Of course, BOE, one that allows for more micro play to shine, as teams generally forced to fight during the Immortal phase. Unless, of course, you have two teams that decide to go all-out race and never try to defend, in which case that's still a pretty fun match. So it should be interesting to see what these teams have for store on us in draft. Both the teams are just now getting settled in the lobby, so we hopefully should be able to start pretty soon. But overall, what I'm looking for based off of what I saw last match on Team LuBu is their Gul'dan player, Bandit, who had a pretty good series, all things considered. Braxis, you can kind of write off as the surprise. They got beat by a surprise Cho'Gall pick, which they struggled. They successfully won in the early game, as you're supposed to against Cho'Gall, but they didn't put away the game early enough and allowed for Calculated Throw to come back with that late game Cho'Gall comp. But definitely look out to see if perhaps they learn from that and put away this match earlier if they have the upper hand. But it's not like they looked extremely poor in their last match. Meanwhile, for Team ReGen, what we'll be looking for is actually their Rainer player who played in all 3 Carve, also their captain, to see how much damage he can put out in this match in order to match his Gul'dan playing enemy. I think we expect to see probably ReGen banning out Gul'dan, and Rainer might be banned out, but don't know for sure. Meanwhile, some other potential heroes we could be seeing today. Anub'arak always gets generally banned, but has a 100% participation rate. So we'll see his portrait likely come out, at least in the draft. Although I doubt to see him actually played, as many teams have just fallen to banning him. As we now enter into the draft for game number 1. Another interesting hero that we might see that is commonly played, at least at the Div C level, is Johanna. LuBu played her all 3 games last time. And although it wasn't played by ReGen, interesting enough, they preferred the Varian as their main tank last game. And were able to get their map win, in fact, with Varian on Volskaya. So should be interesting to see how the main tanks are drafted in game number 1. First of all, though, ReGen Anomaly with the first ban. Expect to see maybe a Nubrak ban if they want to stick with the meta, or if they want to go team specific. As I was mentioning earlier, the Gul'dan is a great place to start. They are, though, just going to stay with the standard first ban in Nubrak. You just don't want to allow a Nubrak with his amazing crowd control abilities through. And he's just annoying to play against if your team already has strategies for your main tank position. Meanwhile, Zeratul going to be banned out here first by LuBu. Zeratul, of course, also one of the top assassin picks, even after his, I don't want to say nerfs, but changes. Meanwhile, Artanis, the next ban, just because Team LuBu has shown to play Artanis in the past, and it being BOE, if you have an Artanis player, they're generally screaming in draft to want to get their one chance to play Artanis. And meanwhile, ETC actually going to be banned out by LuBu. ReGen hasn't played ETC yet, but ETC is another main tank who gets a lot of play in the Div C and D levels. Because I will admit, as an ETC player, he is kind of easier to play, but he still has very strong not only playmaking ability with Mosh Pit, but also zoning abilities. Meanwhile, Diablo is going to be the strong first pick up here from ReGen Anomaly, already kind of sending a message to LuBu that you have to already be cautious in this draft. You can't necessarily go with a very fragile backline that could easily be comboed by Diablo. They are going to steal away the Raynor and actually go with Kael'thas on the side of Team LuBu. Now, Raynor, I definitely see, just because he can not only be erased, but also you're taking away from Carve in this match. But Kael'thas is pretty interesting, as we didn't see Kael played last match, excuse me, by Bandit, as he was on the Gul'dan instead. So maybe a swap up in strategy with the Kael over Gul'dan. Meanwhile, Greymane Tyrande already showing a very aggressive comp coming out here from ReGen Anomaly, and they already have two pretty good targets to be diving upon, especially the Kael'thas, who could potentially be very vulnerable depending on the main tank being picked up here by LuBu. Li Ming going to be now chosen in order to make sure that ReGen Anomaly doesn't go for Li Ming resets on top of the dive they're already kind of drafting. Also to note is that Greymane will likely be the immortal killer for Team ReGen, unless they decide to go with someone else, probably to support him, just because Greymane, although in Worgen form, does have a lot of damage output. He's probably more mid-tier, I would say, for immortal killing. You don't necessarily think of Greymane when you think of people I need in order to outrace the enemy team, and especially weaker than Raynor in that category. Meanwhile, Ana being banned from ReGen Anomaly, and so the picks are going to be Lucio and Johanna, two mainstays here for Team LuBu. It's going to be very interesting to see Streakwings play on the Lucio. I really loved his beats he was able to utilize in order to save the backline in their previous match. And so now with a dive comp, should be interesting to see how he uses his ultimates. Meanwhile, Jaina Imperius going to be the next picks in order to kind of shore up the immortal take ability with Jaina. The only problem I could foreseeably see here, foresee, not a combination that should be used in the English language, but that I can foresee here is that Jaina might be a little bit vulnerable in team fights if her team is going full dive, as she's kind of the odd man out there. Sure, you step up as Jaina, but if you're running into the front line, that's going to be the easy target to turn around from if your initial dive does not go well on the side of ReGen. And so I think I do kind of prefer the comp of ReGen coming out here. I think the dive is, if run successfully, could be devastating on Team LuBu's team comp. And so it's just going to come down to execution and strategy if they are drafting what I foresee as a dive comp as like what they're going for with this draft. the interesting offlane matchup I haven't mentioned yet, as they were the last picks, is the Dahaka versus Imperius. You don't generally see that on BOE just because Dahaka can't really fully utilize his kit, as you don't really need to be teleporting around the map. However, it could allow for some very aggressive play from Team LuBu early on. If they want to perhaps go for an invade, they can utilize that if they still see Imperius hanging around in the top lane, or they can go for an aggressive camp take in the bottom lane in order to get the full value out of Dahaka on BOE. But here we go to begin our match on BOE. It will be ReGen Anomaly with Gen Jesus on the Greymane, Slexia on the Tyrande, Carve on the Jaina, Legacy on the Diablo, and Littlerock on the Imperius. Meanwhile, for Team LuBu will be Alan Hicks on the Dahaka, BDZ on the Rainer, Bandit on the Kael'thas, Streakwing on the Lucio, and Macrota on the Johanna. So the teams are just going to start split off, not going to have Dahaka use his burrow early on in this match in order to force a 5v4 in the bot lane. Instead, they're just going to play it safe and keep his cooldown for potential use in the future. Slexia able to get the scout out onto Macrota's positioning, so can't use the Johanna to keep in the bushes, get some extra vision. Meanwhile, Legacy trying to get some vision from below, make sure there's no flank coming out from Team LuBu, but should be kind of the other way around. ReGen would be more likely to be flanking, but it's just kind of standard for main tanks to love standing in bushes, as that's all they kind of know. Legacy going on to Streakwing, but just gets the push away, not necessarily finding the flip he might have wanted, or if that's what he was going for. So the team's happy though just to trade out for now. Both teams trying to play around the bot siege camp, but no team really wanting to commit this early on in the game. Both teams also have very good wave clear with Bandit and Macrotas. Meanwhile, we see Legacy going down on BDZ, and Gen Jesus actually going in, but Legacy will be the one who actually ends up going down, overstepping his bounds a little bit in order for first blood to come on the side of LuBu. Overall, a nice, I believe that was combo from Carve, got VDC half, getting the initial call to go in, but VDZ quickly backed up onto his towers, and especially with the help of Legacy's charge, and a couple tower shots really hurt Legacy's, causing for him to go down early, especially now that he doesn't have his souls quite yet. He is kind of squishy early on, especially compared to Macrota. But that allows for the bot siege camp to be taken by Team LuBu. BDZ might have stepped up a little bit too much. Does get flipped in charge, but able to get out for now. A huge three-man stun from Slexia, but can't be followed up by quite yet. But that will allow for a ReGen Anomaly to get started on the clear, as LuBu has to back up, not willing to go in with their basically around half bars. Bandit now taps to get mana back up, go to their bruiser camp along with VDZ. Meanwhile, Gen Jesus and Carve do back up to start on their own bruiser camp, as we are about to see the 30-second notification come out from the announcer. Both teams getting a little bit early. However, they are actually holding the camp. Good sign, strategy-wise, from both of these teams to follow with what should be the standard on this map. LuBu taking it a little bit earlier, about 20 seconds before the Mortal spawns, in order to actually move into this top lane to take the top siege camp as well. So they are going to have a ton of pressure, even if it is a little bit early in this top lane. Now with the Mortal spawning, it looks like it will be ReGen immediately going to start the race. However, the members of Team LuBu are already in this top lane. Sure, we do see Johanna still rotating from the bot, but they will go in anyways. Legacy going to be the target now. The tongue comes out, able to get him down to half, and he's separated from his team. Can he be able to get out? A nice wall boop from Streakwing. Not able, though, to get the finish off onto the Diablo. 4,000 damage was able to be done by ReGen Anomaly, but LuBu's going to take this chance to start their race now. Bandit a little bit late coming, deciding not to defend after all, as Alan Hicks will be sent down in order to defend against the camps. Meanwhile, ReGen has already cleared LuBu's camps in the top lane, so it will be ReGen winning the halftime by about 3,000. BDZ again stepping up quite a bit, perhaps trying to bait in Legacy. But LuBu is going to have to be on the offensive here in order to get the defense if they want to win this Immortal phase. Drag does come out onto Legacy yet again, but the drag comes through from Littlerock in order to alleviate some of the pressure going onto the Diablo. Now Gen Jesus looking at a nice charge actually onto Macrota, but maybe not the target Lexi was looking for, as here they go on attack. Streakwing ends up booping too, as Greymane ends up going down. Now Legacy in a lot of trouble. A nice healing coming out from Slexia with the mark. Will that be enough to keep Diablo up? It will be for now, as now Littlerock trying to get the stab on the Streakwing, but Streakwing not low enough for Carve to be able to finish him off. With Carve still up though, going to continue to threaten, but BDZ was able to finish off ReGen's Immortal in order to win the first Immortal. And even though it has a small amount of shield, I don't know if it's going to be able to do too much here in the first phase. I expect for this Immortal to get the gate and maybe a little bit of damage onto the fort. But maybe if LuBu is able to get a pick here, they might be able to increase the value of this first Immortal. For now though, ReGen just kind of sitting back, not really wanting to push the issue too much. Stun from Slexia goes out onto Macrota as Carve taking this chance to get some free damage onto the main tank. Macrota actually going a little bit deep, stepping up into the backline of ReGen. Carve has to be careful now, out of mana and pretty low on health as well. And because of the Macrota being able to go deep, that does allow for LuBu to actually take the first fort of the game. Nice job from the main tank being able to zone out the assassins of ReGen. LuBu going to take this opportunity now to also take the bot siege camp, as Ellen actually gets the drag onto Littlerock, doing a ton of damage to the soul laner, but able now to heal up with his ability. So not too much of a concern early on. Now looks like LuBu looking to potentially rotate up into the top lane. Streakwing Bandit staying along, but they will be rotating with the rest of the team trying to catch out Littlerock. But Littlerock going to be backing up, knowing that the members are missing. As the Owl, I believe, was able to find Bandit and Streakwing on the rotation. BDZ and Bandit, though, going to start on this top siege camp as well. Perhaps they're going to look for value here. You know, in the bot lane, ReGen is going to take this opportunity now that they know that the members are taking that top siege camp to just take the bottom gate for free of LuBu. So nice heads up play from there, but can LuBu get this trade in the top lane? Already being able to, with the siege camp, destroy the top gate. And now they're actually looking for more. Going to be able to get the well at least. And it's just going to be a race for the forts. Carve did rotate up here in order to help with the defense, but not really anyone to go onto. Now the stab goes out onto Bandit. That will be the retreat call from Streakwing. But BDZ is looking to try to get the finish off damage onto the fort. Will he be able to find it? I don't think so. Now, we'll be able to just step back with Littlerock retreating in order to finish it off. ReGen Anomaly, though, will be able to take their Shaman camp before, or not really before, right as the Immortal spawn. But now LuBu has 10 advantage. So this Immortal phase is pretty much free, as ReGen can't afford to fight into LuBu, as they still are a level down and away from their ultimates. Speaking of ultimates, Lucio did get Sound Barrier, Isolation coming out from Dahaka, Blessed Shield from Johanna, the Phoenix from Kael'thas, and Rainer's Raiders from Rainer. Legacy now getting dove upon from Macrota. Will he be able to get out? A nice charge, but the response tongue from Alan Hicks brings it right back into the fold, as that will be Diablo going down. Not only that, but LuBu going to take this chance in order to get the clear onto the Shaman camp. It appears that Gen Jesus and Carve going to try to get the shields a little bit lower. However, LuBu's going to rotate in order to try to catch the backliners out. Not able to find them, though, as ReGen's Assassin's able to back out. Now they do have ultimates, with Ring of Frost coming from Jaina, Cursed Bullet from Greymane, Starfall from the Tyrande. I believe that's the shield from Imperius, as Legacy does end up getting dragged in. Slexia got stunned from the Immortal, has to be careful, took a lot of damage. As here comes the Fire Breath here from Legacy, trying to do the damage, but the beat is dropped from Streakwing. Able to keep up the remaining members of LuBu. Meanwhile, Legacy ends up going very low. Can the Raider able to get the damage off? It's not able to. Gen Jesus trying to get the punish out onto BDZ, but the remaining members of LuBu able to rotate back in order to save him, as this Immortal will be pushing in the bottom lane. Already the fort down, so LuBu will have their eyes on the keep. Many members of ReGen had to back off ahead of time in order to get their health and mana bars back. So LuBu going to be able to take about half of the keep gate for free, as this Immortal still has half of its shield remaining. 13 though still a level away, so ReGen can take a fight. Allen misses the tongue for the potential engage, as Makrota also trying to look into the backline. Littlerock gets the stun onto 2, as Carve actually got stunned up from the Mortal. Allen Hicks able to hit the tongue onto Legacy, but not able to drag him far enough to go in. Here comes the Blessed Shield committed onto Carve. Slexia taking a lot of damage from VDZ, will end up going down, as VDZ now having to back up though. Legacy again the target, but the tongue missed from Allen Hicks. Phoenix is being committed. They're going for core. Makrota, can he get the finish onto Carve? No, can't. Isolation also ends up missing, but the core already down to 30%. I don't think ReGen will be able to defend, as LuBu will be able to take game number 1 in the series. Overall, I think great amount of credit has to go to the tank line of Team LuBu in that game, as they're able to make a ton of space, zoning out the assassins of ReGen, not allowing for them to step up in order to defend against the Mortal in both phases, get really any damage through. So they're able to get a ton of value with both of their Immortals. But overall now, as we look to the stats from the game, we see that the top damage dealer was actually Bandit on the Kael'thas, followed closely behind from Carve on the Jaina. Meanwhile, VDZ though was the bloodthirstiest, able to get the 2 kills for his team. And then looking at the stats, Legacy did tank 45,000 damage, almost double that of his most tanky counterpart with Dahaka. Allen Hicks tanking 28k damage, but you can see where the focus was onto Legacy. They were able to kill him twice. Once early on that didn't really make too much of a difference, but then the later kill was able to allow again space to be created with their main tank out of the fight, so that LuBu could take this game number 1 pretty convincingly. However, the series is not over, as ReGen will get the chance to pick for map pick or first pick for the next game. Looking at where they might potentially take us last match, ReGen did go to Tomb, Volskaya, and Inferno and ended up winning on Volskaya, but they do want to go to Spider Queen. So, want to go to a map where, again, more micro focus, although your macro still can shine on Spider Queen. But it should be interesting to see the response coming out from ReGen, whether it is a change in draft or just overall strategy, because it looked like maybe you need to Legacy definitely was caught out a little bit there, being aggressive with his charges. So maybe that's just like the small difference that can easily be changed in between matches in order to make a huge difference in this game. Or excuse me, in this match. Meanwhile, it should be interesting to see if LuBu go with the same setup as last game. Some changes we might end up seeing here is perhaps, I don't know actually if we might see changes, as LuBu tends to stick with kind of the same comp. One thing that they do try to change up a lot, depending on what map, is the offlaner. So the Dahaka was able to get some value with the tongues in team fights, catching out Legacy once, the really nice tongue for Legacy's second death, after Legacy almost escaped from the rotation. but I expect a different offlaner to come through. As again, Tomb not one of his Dahaka's better maps. Just setting up the lobby now as the teams are coming in. Something else to be looking out for is, speaking of Tomb, ReGen last match on Tomb went with a Raynor, Garrosh, Jaina, Malthael on a pick, or team comp. So it should be interesting to see if they try to go back to that, especially with, I could see the Malthael being able to wreak a lot of havoc onto the frontliners of Team LuBu if they decide to go that route. Looks like the teams are now ready though, so we will be getting into the draft very shortly. First ban from LuBu, I expect to see maybe the Anubrak ban in order to keep the tradition of the first ban being Anubrak. Especially because they are a consistent Johanna team. Said they're going to stay with the Zeratul ban. You know, I could definitely see Johanna being the ban here from ReGen. Just not allowing for Macrota to peel off whatever legacy he's trying to initialize with, as well as not allowing for Macrota to zone out the backliners. Instead, it's going to be the Kale taking off the board, though. So if Gul'dan is able to make it through to the pick phase, expect that to likely be the mage pick from LuBu. Meanwhile, ETC yet again being banned out. Wanting to keep Legacy off of it. And Anubrak being banned out again from ReGen. So a pretty similar first bans from last game. Macrota immediately going to lock the Johanna, and I definitely don't blame him. Just because of the fact that the Johanna was able to do so much work last game in order to really allow for his assassins to shine. Meanwhile, for ReGen, gonna start off with the Raynor this time, as well as putting Gen Jesus back onto the Jaina. So, want to take Raynor away from LuBu, as well as I'd argue Jaina, in order to make sure you don't have the devastating Johanna-Jaina combo that can absolutely dominate the early game on Tomb. Meanwhile, we're going to see Bandit back on the Gul'dan, as well as Streakwing back on Lucio. Streakwing doesn't want to potentially lose his almost perfect participation on Lucio. Only not playing it once so far this entire season. Meanwhile, it will be Dahaka being banned out from LuBu, which I think you take. LuBu's offlaner is one of the more flexible people on the team, so definitely could see one of a wide variety of heroes. To give you a perspective, last match he played Dahaka, but also Artanis and Rexar. So, and I would argue that Artanis was very impactful as well. Meanwhile, Diablo going to be banned away from Legacy this time to protect Bandit on the Gul'dan, as well as whoever else might be caught out. ReGen gonna put Slexia back on the Tyrande, and then Littlerock's gonna be on the Yorick this time, and so Alan Hicks gonna lock the Rexar immediately. Should be interesting to see how they utilize the Rexar in the off lane, just because although I'd argue it's one of his better maps just because you can use Misha in order to pick up the gems. You might not have the best teamfight present. Meanwhile, Legacy going to be back on the Varian that he's played quite a few times this season, with VDZ going over to Maiev, actually. So I think I actually prefer the team comp of LuBu this time, just because they've shown their ability on a similar comp to this. The only question mark to me, based off of watching their last match, is VDZ on the Maiev. But Bandit's Gul'dan, very solid. Macrotile, you've already seen, is very dominant on the Johanna. And Streakwing's Lucio gets a ton of value. And so I think it's kind of on ReGen to show me how much value they can get out of the Varian in these team fights to justify the pick. But overall, definitely could see this match going either way. Early game, both teams have a ton of clear, so look to see some very clean rotations for both of these teams. Now going into game number 2, it's a win or go home situation for ReGen Anomaly with Slexia on the Tyrande, Legacy on the Varian, Gen Jesus on the Jaina, Carve on the Raynor, Legacy on the Varian, and Littlerock on the Leoric. Meanwhile, for LuBu, will be VDZ on the Maiev, Streakwing on the Lucio, Bandit on the Gul'dan, Macrotile on the Johanna, and Alan Hicks on the Rexar. Something to keep in mind now, early on, is we'll be keeping an eye on the stacks that Bandit will be getting on his Echoed Corruption. Very important to see the damage output rise substantially once Bandit's able to complete that quest. The teams, though, going to be starting out with Leoric immediately going in the bot lane. VDZ being caught out, looking for the pull onto Carve, able to get it. Can they get the follow-up damage? A lot of damage coming out from Bandit there, but the heals from Slexia will be able to keep Carve alive. They do get the quick clear on the way from LuBu, but going to lose a couple minions in the bot lane, as Rexar had to stay in the middle to stay with the fight. That broke out pretty early on. However, now the 4-man rotation starts up for Team LuBu. VDZ trying to control the rotation now for ReGen. But LuBu, with the early pressure they put on the heroes, able to get a very nice rotation advantage. Now Legacy has to be careful. VDZ will be able to get the pull. Not able to, I don't think. Just the boop coming out. They were looking more to see if they could catch Slexia or Carve out with the bind from VDZ, but not able to quite find it. Quick rotation though, as both the teams now getting into their groove. LuBu staying around a little bit to do some damage to ReGen, but want to make sure that they don't miss any minions in the top lane. Slight gem advantage right now for Team LuBu, just with their clear advantage, as now they're going to go ahead and peel off for the Bruiser camp with how fast they've cleared those top 2 lanes. Should be able to take it pretty quickly with Niches being activated, or actually it's Bonds of Justice being taken, so maybe not as fast as I expected from VDZ, because they don't have that greater camping ability from the Maiev, but still pretty quickly, as now we just now see Gen Jesus and Slexia peeling off to take their Bruiser camp, so some push going to be applied in the mid lane from Team LuBu. 4 is now being picked up from LuBu as well, but just behind the corner from Team ReGen, so advantage will not be up for too long. Meanwhile, they're not going to take that chance to push at the camp, instead going to make sure that they don't lose any XP and just get back to their rotations. However, with just Legacy being there to try to clear the camp with Gen Jesus and Slexia taking the camp, not much damage was able to be done to the Bruiser camp, killing about half of it. Legacy now, though, has that taunt, so VDZ can't play as aggressively as he was a little bit earlier on in this game. Macrotile going to take this opportunity to get the first turn, or second turn-in of the game for LuBu. It's Alan Hicks trying to deny the turn-in away from Littlerock in the bot lane. Already, though, both teams getting close to their first turn-in. We see LuBu just 2 gems away. Meanwhile, ReGen only 6 gems away as well. So both teams going to start trying to get some of these smaller turn-ins potentially. VDZ actually able to get in his 12 as well as Macrotas, I believe, 3. So that's pretty crucial, as now they're only 6 away. They just need Rexar turn-in in the bot lane, which is being contested for now. Can he finish it off, though? Alan Hicks will be able to, as Littlerock was just trying to lane as he was getting zoned out from the Misha. Now in the mid lane, LuBu's looking for a fight. Bandit ended up going pretty low, but the tap is going to allow for him to heal back up. So now it should be interesting to see how these teams split up. ReGen immediately going to be going the top lane, generally the lane you want to be pushing. Meanwhile, LuBu going to clear the mid lane first and now rotate and try to catch ReGen out a little bit. Streakwing going very aggressively with the push off, but not able to slow down Legacy quite yet. The gate is already down in this top lane, so a little bit of an advantage for LuBu in terms of siege. Meanwhile, Macrotas stepping up a lot just to try to zone out Gen Jesus, but not able to do so. Now Legacy trying to see if he can get the taunt on anyone. Finds it onto VDZ, who went deep for the pull, but not able to quite find the damage to finish off VDZ. Going very low, but the speed boost out from Streakwing will save VDZ's life, but they won't be able to finish off the fort in the top lane. Meanwhile, Alan Hicks, though uncontested in the mid lane, was able to find the fort there. So there was still a nice amount of value picked up for the first Webweaver phase from LuBu. And now they will actually be looking to do a little bit more siege damage here. Already having cleared out the top minion wave. Carve can't rotate in with Macrota watching it, so that will also be the top fort being picked up by Team LuBu as well. Again, setting the tone early, getting a lot of value off of their first objective in order to get a nice early game lead. However, ReGen's going to be looking for the turn-in in the bot lane. Littlerock and Legacy alone have enough for the turn-in. VDZ going in. Can he get the bind onto Carve? Not quite able to close the gap in time. And so, LuBu going to back off for now. LuBu isn't too far away on their next turn-in as well, only needing 17 more gems. And so they're going to continue with their incremental turn-ins to constantly threaten being close to that turn-in as well. Meanwhile, ReGen going to be taking the long rotate around, potentially look for the turn-in in the top lane now that all of LuBu's attention is in the bot lane. They are allowing for the mid lane to push up a little, quite a bit, as well as in the top lane, so nice lane management coming out from ReGen in order to try to deny away some of the XP from Team LuBu. BDZ constantly being a threat and a presence so far. Throwing out the shade to threaten the TP and bind. However, Legacy will be the one going in on a Streakwing, not able to find the stun follow-up though to the taunt. And so ReGen will be forced to back up right away. This is one of the powers though of having the Rexar, is that Alan Hicks has been able to lane while just having Misho constantly watch this bot turn in order to get some vision for LuBu of the location of ReGen. As now that they go for it, Alan Hicks just gonna go ahead and sacrifice the bear in order to deny away the turn-in, while his remaining teammates are able to get the remaining gems in the top turn-in. Fantastic play there from LuBu in order to get the second Webweaver. VDZ looking for the teleport onto Carve, but not able to find it. The other problem though that's compounding on ReGen is you have so many gems being held by various members. Littlerock has 33, Legacy with 34, and even the backliners like Carve and Gen Jesus have about 15 each. And so you can't afford to lose a team fight at this stage. Ult's now coming in for both teams. It will be beat yet again for Lucio. Call the Boars for Rexar, Horrify for Gul'dan, Cage for Maiev, and Blessed Shield for Johanna. Meanwhile, on ReGen, it will be Entomb for Leoric, Starfall for Tyrande, Taunt for Varian, Ring of Frost from Jaina, and then actually it will be Hyperion coming out from Raynor. With the other Webweavers down already, LuBu having taken the bot fort with their Webweaver, gonna get some damage onto the gate. Legacy looking for Bandit here, as we do see an Entomb that hits 3 members, and Misha, as well as with the Ring of Frost. It's going to be 2 members down early already with the trade going out onto Jaina. But can they be a turnaround for Team LuBu? BDZ still trying to stay around along with Bandit, but not able to quite find the engage they wanted. So a nice combo there from ReGen, able to force LuBu to back up for the first time in this game. However, they decide to retreat right onto the bot siege camp, so it's not like they're losing a ton of value, as ReGen now taking their bruiser camp. Legacy getting close to having a turn-in just with his own gems right now, as LuBu with their members coming back will be able to defend a turn-in if they see it now. They're trying to take the bruiser camp. Will they have the time to defend against it? With ReGen going to top, it looks like they're just going to give the turn-in for now. Not even try to check the top turn-in in time. They're going to get a lot of clear onto the mid bruiser camp though of ReGen, as ReGen decided to back up in order to get some clear into the top lane in order to make sure that Web Weaver doesn't get no value. However, the mid lane is going to be pretty well fortified from LuBu as well, as they have this bruiser camp to help them with the defense. They're going to be rotating up, trying to catch Gen Jesus out, but a wise retreat will be able to save his life. Now they're looking for the flank here onto the remaining members of Team ReGen. Makrota being very aggressive with his positioning, but not finding the engage that they wanted, going to just back up now. Webweaver's already down to half health and haven't even gotten close to a structure. Littlerock now threatening to go in, as 13s are picked up now from Team LuBu. As you definitely have to look for Littlerock now in fights with the Entomb to potentially start off the engage from ReGen. Mid Webweaver though does now fall, as LuBu rotates up into the top lane along with a couple of the members of Team ReGen, but able to successfully clear that before too much damage done to the gate. Taunt ends up going out onto VDZ, as well as the Entomb. The Fear ends up hitting the front line of ReGen, but the Ring of Frost hits 3. Not enough follow-up though in order to successfully confirm a kill. Hyperion actually ends up killing VDZ, but Gen Jesus very low at the 30 health. Will Makrota be able to get the finish up? Not able to. Carve forcing Makrota to have to back up. So it is another 1-for-1 trade, or 1-for-none trade in favor of Team ReGen, off the back of a nice Entomb from Littlerock. That did come very close though to not being able to find value on the side of ReGen, as VDZ was almost able to successfully retreat from that fight with the nice healing coming in from the Lucio. But now it's Makrota who might be in trouble after checking the top lane. Will end up going down there to Gen Jesus. LuBu can't really afford to stop the turn-in, so it will be 2 straight turn-ins coming in from ReGen as soon as Littlerock able to finish off turning in his gems. Lanes are more pushed up this time, so ReGen now gonna be putting on some pressure first in this top lane. The tower's very low, gonna be finished off here from Legacy as well as Littlerock. However, now Echo Corruption does finish up from Bandit, so Legacy and Littlerock have to be very careful that they don't get shredded from Bandit now that Echo Corruption is completed. Legacy going, gets the taunt yet again to VDZ, as well as the 2-man into the Ring of Frost ends up hitting 4 members, but the beat allows for them to survive through it, as it actually will be Jaina and Leoric going down. Now Carve in a lot of trouble from Alan Hicks, as well as Streakwing going very aggressive on the Lucio. They will be able to get the kill instead though onto Legacy. So again, the key player there is Streakwing, able to sustain through the combo coming out from ReGen and Anomaly, and that allows for LuBu to now hit 16, a level and a half ahead of ReGen. So they are going to have a nice advantage for quite a lot of time in this game. When we looked at some of the stats, we looked at some of the stats right now. Right now we see that it is Gen Jesus on the Jaina having the most amount of damage so far. Meanwhile, Bandit on the Gul'dan with that 34,000 is leading the way on Team LuBu. They are going to be able to get the turn in on Team LuBu. as now they also are able to get the bot siege giant camp in order to assist with their push. Sorry about the camera, accidentally hit 0. So we are kind of locked in for now into Team LuBu's perspective. Now it should be good. As it looks like Team LuBu is going to be pushing in the top lane. Can they find out Littlerock? Streakwing going very aggressive with the push off, but Littlerock just going to be able to easily get away with the Wraith form. That would have been very devastating to ReGen's defense. As here comes up Hyperion being popped in order just to get some damage onto the Web Weaver, as well as zone out the members of Team LuBu. Misha going in to get the stun onto Littlerock, but no damage to really follow quite yet. Now Hyperion expires as Littlerock in a little bit of trouble there. A nice stun onto Legacy will be able to confirm the kill onto Varian. Ring of Frost only ends up hitting 1, and I believe that. So now they will be going on to Gen Jesus. Can they get the finish off? They will be able to, as well as the beat in order to save out Macrota, as now it will be Raynor going down. Littlerock in a little bit of trouble here. BDZ going in for the kill onto Slexia. Not able to find the damage quite yet, but that will be the keep going down. Will LuBu look for the core? It looks like they will be here. They still have the Web Weavers, albeit very low in the mid and bot lanes. Will now be expiring, but still 13 seconds until Jaina comes back on the side of Team ReGen. Now Legacy trying to go in, gets the taunt onto Streakwing. However, it will not be enough as LuBu will take this series 2-0. Had a fantastic early game there from LuBu in order to get the first 2 Web Weaver phase as well as 3 forts. However, ReGen was able to pull it back there in the mid game as they got 2 Web Weavers of their own, but it just took 1 failed fight for it all to fall apart as LuBu took back the momentum and the game. Now as we look to some of the post stats, we see it was, as we were tracking earlier, Gen Jesus topping hero damage for ReGen. Meanwhile, it's Bandit on the Gul'dan leading the way for Team LuBu, especially once you saw Echo Corruption being completed. It really forced Legacy to have to back up more. And in fact, you saw his 2 deaths coming after that quest was completed. However, I think the key player in that last game definitely was Streakwing. Hit some key ultimates as well as amp it ups to keep his team alive through the ult combos coming out from Team ReGen. So now we're going to look to see if we can get the captain, Streakwing, or any other members on for an interview to talk about the match at hand. But overall, a pretty quick match and a pretty convincing 2-0 there from LuBu in order to get them on the board in terms of wins. Meanwhile, ReGen will have to wait another week, assuming they don't have a flex match scheduled this weekend, in order to try to get in the win column. Meanwhile, it looks like we will get Alan Hicks, the offlaner from Team LuBu. This time in order to maybe talk through some of the strategy of LuBu. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Dead Latin, how you getting along tonight?
I'm doing great. Congrats on your domination victory tonight.
Well, thanks much. It feels pretty good to come back after being beat by calculated throw last game.
Yeah, well, I think that last match wasn't like too far away. Like it was pretty close, especially in game number 2.
Yeah, in game number 2, they definitely had some moments where they put a hurting on us with those entombs into the Starfalls with the Jaina Blizzard, and they were able to get some good blow up in that Wombo combo.
But turning back to game number 1, you guys came out on BOE, not actually with a Gul'dan. Instead, you came with Kael'thas as well as Raynor. Why did you guys choose to go with Kael instead of Gul'dan in game number 1?
I think Bandit's level 150 Kael'thas.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, so it's easily his main, and we'll play KT anytime we get a chance. But we like to have a big damage, big AOE damage mage in our composition pretty much always. So, if we don't get the KT, we're going to grab something like Gul'dan. We're going to grab Jaina, Chromie, Lemi. We're going to grab something that has a lot of, just raw number damage. But yeah, we really like Gul'dan and KT.
Yeah, I want to talk about your performance in game number 1 on the Dahaka. Why did you guys choose Dahaka on Battlefield, as that's normally one of his weaker maps?
I think I'm a level 82 Dahaka. And we just play really well with it. It's not so much necessarily needing the rotations on that map, but I knew I could beat the Imperius in lane. I knew that if there was any invasion on that bottom camp when we tried to make a play, I could go rotate on that. Plus, in a team fight, he just brings a ton of utility with drag. He's damn near unkillable with all of his essence and E. So it's nice to have that other big, tanky, beefy frontliner, especially on that map where you've got just limited avenues for engagement on the immortals. So you drive the enemy team off of the immortal that you're attacking. There's only 2 paths that they can come into from their base. So if you've got a tank and then a real beefy bruiser like Dahaka, or Rexar would be another good option, even Artanis. You can block both of those paths. You can peel for the team a little bit better, or stop the engage, not necessarily appeal. Plus, I just really like Dahaka.
Meanwhile, one thing I also want to comment about is just you and Macrotas playing game number 1 to create a lot of space and kind of zoning out the assassins from ReGen. So
that's the job of tanks. That's what your front line's supposed to be doing, right?
But how do you think you were so effective at creating that space in game number 1?
I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but it felt like their Diablo just couldn't quite get everything on the ball in the first game. Maybe a little bit of warm-up jitters, first game jitters or something, and was engaging a little bit too deep, and so we were able to get a couple kills on him, get him low several other times, so they had to back up, and they couldn't necessarily then engage like they wanted to. And if their front line, especially with a dive tank like Diablo, if he can't come in, then their back line can't come in either.
And then one thing you as a team were able to do very effectively was get a lot of value from your immortals. What do you think allowed for you to get a ton of values from both of your immortals?
Well, it's difficult for me to say on the first one because I was in the solo lane. I rotated up and I had to focus a decent amount of attention on the Imperius up there, because if you ignore him, he will kill you. But we had a lot of range damage with KT and Raynor, especially with Raynor's Exterminator talent at level 1, which, can triple his damage on non-hero targets. So it allowed us to push heavier than perhaps the other team or other people might expect. It's almost a little bit like having a Sylvanas there, because you're not disabling the structure, but you're dealing so much more damage than would otherwise be expected if you take, say, Ace in the Hole. I really like Exterminator on that particular map for that reason. It's just great. It's great push power, and it's great immortal race.
And going now on to game number 2, you faced off against a team comp that was very combo heavy once it came online with their ultimates. So how as a team did you adapt to ReGen's team comp post 10?
That was the biggest problem post 10 when they were able to start womboing with the Entomb, with the Jaina damage, with the Starfall, and that's where they had their most success in the match. Uh, we tried to make sure that our positioning after the first time when they engaged with that and caught us and got a couple kills, one on me and one on someone else. Maybe it was Streak Wing. I'm not sure. We tried to make sure that our positioning was spread out so that they couldn't catch a lot of us in a single Entomb. And if we always tried to make sure that Streak Wing, who was playing Lucio, was never an Entomb target, so that when the Entomb went down, he would be able to run up and throw in the beat drop, the sound barrier, to give those people the sustain they needed to just tank through all that damage. That was really the way we adapted for that and tried to counter it. That was going to be particularly important if they made it to level 20, because Buried Alive, if they caught Lucio and Buried Alive, we just lose that team fight big.
Oh, definitely. And then you ended up on the Rexar in game number 2. Can you maybe talk about how to maximize Rexar's value on Tomb of the Spider Queen?
One of the tricks about Rexar and Misha is when Rexar is channeling an objective like an altar on on Towers of Doom, or turn in on Tomb of the Spider Queen or Brax's holdout, is you can continue to micro Misha. You can't do Misha charge, but you can move her around and have her attack people. You can have her anchor and move to intercept skill shots and things like that while you're turning in. Uh, I think that's a big help. Another big thing is Rexar himself is not the tankiest of warriors. I guess he's really a bruiser. But you can clear the wave pretty quickly if you take Aspect of the Hawk at level 1. I think that's the name of the talent. I'd have to double check, but it's the Q talent that gives you better wave clear. And you can have Misha pull in the front line and collect those the gems so that Rexar is never really in danger. Tomb is another map where you get a lot of ReGen globes. So at level 4, you get a lot of value out of the ReGen globe talent, which gives you 15 armor, you and Misha 15 armor after gathering 20 ReGen globes, in addition to increased ReGen like every other ReGen globe talent. So those things right there are pretty big. And against a Leoric, Leoric's really kind of suffering right now since the move speed changes came in, because he's not able to hold people in his drain hope as long as he used to be able to. So if you can avoid getting hit right up next to him by a slow and a drain hope, he has trouble sustaining in lane. So those are the biggest things about that particular game and matchup. Otherwise, it's like any other map where you get into team fights, you're going to be doing basically the same thing on Rexar that you do on anything else.
Sounds good. And then my last question is, any shout-outs you have after your team's victory today?
Well, thanks to you for casting both this game and the previous game. I'd like to shout out to the opposing team, ReGen and Anomaly. I think they put up a really good showing. They certainly didn't give up after that brutal first game and gave us a bit of a run for our money in game 2. And shout outs to my teammates. Everybody came to play today. They put on their game face, and we just got the job done.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Alan. And again, congrats on your first victory of the season.
All right. Have a great one.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Well, that will do it for our first cast for today from me. It's still an hour away until our second match of the day on this channel. Again, coming from DC, but this time the West Coast with Almost Legends Obsidian versus Pigeon Stitches. In the meanwhile, though, while I set up for the next cast, I'm going to go ahead and send you guys over to MF Palindrome, which has, I believe, the Boogan Squad versus Nexus Cats Div C East matchup. So in order to keep you in the Div C sphere. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, And shout out to Dallas Class and MT No, who followed, as well as Eric with the host. Thank you guys so much, and definitely please stay with the raid in order to support our other fellow NGS casters. And for at least until 9:30 Central, this is Dead Latin. Make sure you guys, good luck, have fun, and I'll see you in the Nexus.